I did go to Reno. I was underage, though, so, like, it was no fun. We went to watch a movie. Good times. Good story. Good story.
You drove to Reno to watch
Reno Trip Report. We went to see Sum of All Fears. It was 2002. Hello, it is Friday, August 26th, 2016, and this is episode 22 of Due for a Win, the Atlantic City and Casino Biz podcast. My name is Craig Stone. With me is Kyle Askin.
Howdy.
So we have some news to get through. Not a whole lot going on, although I guess arguably a lot to talk about with no real results, which I feel like has happened a couple times on the show. The first thing, kind of just wrapping up the latest of the city news, is that the city within the last couple weeks was supposed to vote on a plan to dissolve the water utility. And the idea, or the reason for that, is that they're supposed to have a plan to do that by September 15th, or else they're in violation of the terms of their bridge loan from the state. And this is actually the fourth time that this has gone in front of the city council. They've never been able to get it done, either because it gets postponed or it fails. And yet again, they could not get a majority to agree on a plan to dissolve the water utility. I think basically the idea is that they're going to try to bring the water utility into the government, which I guess would create revenue for the city. And they couldn't do it. It was a complete deadlock. 4 votes in favor, 4 against, and 1 abstain. And so the problem that this creates, even though September 15th is still a few weeks away, is that they only have 1 meeting scheduled between now and September 15th, and they need to approve it in 1 meeting and then vote to adopt it in a second meeting. So they need to have 2 meetings in that time, and they don't have 2 meetings scheduled. So unless they first get a majority, and second, schedule an emergency meeting, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So there's a Christian Hetrick, Press of Atlantic City article that summarizes this whole thing much better than I just did, and I'll link to that in the show notes, but definitely seems like a bit of a problem for the city. And so what's the end result of this if they can't get it done? Basically, if September 15th rolls around, the state would be within their rights to tell the city that they have to pay anything that has come to them from the state back to them immediately. So basically, so far they've gotten $13 million of the bridge loan. If they get anything more between now and September 15th, they would have to pay all of that back. And obviously that would create huge problems for the city. So definitely not the best news if you're hoping for this bridge loan thing to work out and hoping for all of this to go forward and be the solution to Atlantic City's problems. I know Don Guardian, the mayor of Atlantic City, said that this thing is terrible, that they couldn't get this done. It makes a state takeover significantly more likely. Obviously, if the state's goal is to take the city over, they're not going to be too lenient on this deadline. So I don't know if you have anything to add about the city failing to do this, but it certainly doesn't seem good.
It doesn't seem great, but I'm going to just stick with my story from last episode and say I'm not really going to comment too much on any of this stuff until something actually happens. I mean, there's plenty of time. I mean, I know they don't have enough scheduled meetings to take care of this, but they can always get together and do it if they really need to do it. And if they don't do it, we'll see what happens, but I don't have much to say until something actually happens.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, you sort of impress the dire nature of the situation on everyone, and what do you know, suddenly you've got a majority, and you schedule an emergency meeting, and you get it done. So, as much as this seems very dire, I'm not going to totally, sound the death bells of this bridge loan yet. Some other city news, sort of, is that they've announced a 5th Atlantic City Beach concert. So originally it was very country-focused, all of the beach concerts, and lately the most recent one before this was that they announced was Blink-182, And so now they have announced a concert that is Belle, Biv DeVoe, and En Vogue. So if you're into like early 90s R&B kind of music, that's what they're going for, I guess. It's very, very different than what the other stuff they've had, Jimmy Buffett, like Blake Shelton in the past and that kind of stuff. So definitely a different direction. And so that's just been announced, I think, for early September, like the week of September 22nd. So it's September 22nd, 5 to 9 p.m. is the concert, so extends the sort of summertime later. I think the Blink-182 show is actually Labor Day weekend, so it extends that by a couple of weeks, which is good for the city. I don't really know much or have not thought much about Belle, Biv DeVoe, and En Vogue in years and years and years, but if you're interested in that, that is a beach concert that will be coming to Atlantic City.
So, by even knowing who they are, you have me beat, so I, again, don't really have too much to say about this.
Okay.
But I'm glad they're having beach concerts, and I hope it does well.
Yeah, it seems like, they were only scheduled for 4, and so it definitely is a good thing that they've gone above and beyond. This is part of a CRDA contract with Live Nation, where they have a deal for 4 beach concerts per summer, I think, for the next couple of years. This will be the 5th, so seems like it's a success for everybody involved, so good to see that they're, adding more to that docket. Another thing that's been announced, actually was announced in June, but the soft opening just started, is a thing called Escape AC, which is now in a soft opening phase at the Tropicana. Basically, the idea is that you get put in a room with some either friends or random people who happen to buy into the same time slot as you, and it's some themed room, and you have a set amount of time to figure out your way out of the room. I'm assuming there's sort of doors and keys and trickery and kind of like brain teaser-y type stuff that you're supposed to figure out. I know that they have these in a few cities. I was in Charleston a few months ago, and they had it in Charleston. The one in Atlantic City is, right now, the only thing open is the poker room themed room. It's $30 per person. The times are 6:30 and 9 p.m. every weekday, and then 4 p.m., 7 p.m., and 9:30 p.m. on weekends. When it's fully open, they're going to have a casino cage theme, a backstage theme, which I'm assuming is concert related, and a boardwalk theme. So this is something that is another non-gambling attraction. It adds something to Atlantic City. I actually mentioned after going to Tropicana that I thought they are the best option on the boardwalk as far as a full resort offering things more than just gambling, with the quarter, with restaurants, with clubs, and this just gives them yet another thing that I think people are going to be interested in. I mean, hopefully it does well and people are excited about it. I haven't heard a whole lot about it except for just the couple of press releases that they've sent out, so maybe that's not a reason for optimism. I mean, would you have any interest in doing this sort of escape game thing for an hour on a Friday or Saturday night?
I'd probably, for one thing, I'd probably guess it's probably closer to like a half-hour time limit. I think that's more the norm for these kind of things. These are very popular. They're all over the place. I mean, I just went to Ocean City, Maryland, not to be confused with Ocean City, New Jersey, a couple weeks ago, and they have one that's like right near where we always stay. I've never done one personally, but it seems like the kind of thing that would be up my alley. I mean, I've certainly played the phone version of this game before. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Would I do it in Atlantic City? Like, maybe not in Atlantic City because I go to Atlantic City for other reasons. But, yeah, if you're there with your family or whatever, it seems like a good thing to do. Yeah,
I kind of like that it's an interesting attraction. It's actually getting done. I'm assuming the sort of budget required for this type of thing is not as big as, like, the Polar Coaster or Revel.
Yeah, and if you've got the space, I mean, the expensive thing's the real estate, and Trop probably has a bunch of space they're not using to do anything, so there's no reason not to do it. I mean, it's probably a nice little profit center for them.
Yeah, so if anybody goes to this thing and does the soft opening, we'd love to hear about it. Obviously, don't give away the secrets of the room or whatever, but just let us know if it's fun or not. I've never done any of this stuff. I don't really even sort of know what to expect as far as what it's going to look like when you walk inside, or, you know, is it just like you're trying a bunch of keys, or is there some sort of crazy puzzle you have to put together?
Yeah, it's like a logic puzzle more, I think.
So, I don't know. I mean, that sounds kind of fun.
Yeah. I mean, it is something that, like, the general idea interests me. I've never done one.
Yeah, so if you go, send us an email or post it on the Facebook group and let us know how it is and if it's worth going to, if it's worth taking some time out of your AC trip to go do that. And at $30, you know, that's not too bad for a little bit of entertainment, given.
Yeah, I think that's about the norm for this kind of thing. $25-$30.
Yeah, so let us know if you go. The other big, more macro news is that Atlantic City casino profits were up 21% in the first half of 2016. I think we talked about this after the first quarter. We talked about it at the end of 2015 when they announced that basically all the remaining brick-and-mortar casinos posted profits for 2015. Now we hear that for the first half of 2016, they're actually doing even better than 2015. It's the highest 6-month increase since 2010. The profits, every casino profitable. Borgata obviously made the most money at $106 million, which is up 27%. Harrah's was second with $57 million, which is actually a 3% decrease. Caesars, again, a little bit down, like down 0.5%, but $36 million. And then, you know, I won't go through the whole list, but otherwise everybody else is up, up even from their previous amount. And Taj is up infinite because it posted a $9.6 million loss in Q2 of 2015, and it turned in a $2 million profit in the first half of 2016. So what this means, I think, like my sort of takeaway from this is that we have yet another profitable casino closing. Showboat, I think, was the notable previous one that was making a profit before it closed in 2014, and now the Taj, which clearly has made money in the first half of 2016, although not a significant amount, is slated to close on October 10th.
So, just one thing real quick, I mean, in defense of Carl Icahn, is that the rules, I mean, the employment structure that it was profitable under, sort of not paying towards employee health care and stuff, it seems like that was not going to happen going forward, and I suspect that doing that for however many thousand employees would eat up that $2 million profit pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking $2 million over 6 months...
Yeah, it's not a ton of money for...
Right, any increase in your staff costs is definitely going to eat that up real quick. So that's certainly not to say that they're going to be profitable long term, but...
and also, I will just say that I would imagine... You know, I haven't looked, you know, super hard at these numbers, but I would guess that Q2 and Q3 are like leaps and bounds better than Q1 and Q4 for the casinos. So turning a small profit in Q2 probably means that you're not making money over the whole year.
Right. I mean, this includes Q1, so it includes the sort of rough... Oh, no, this is Q2.
This is just Q2, right?
So it's over 3 months. I mean, $2 million over 3 months, not 6 months.
But you know that they just get killed probably in Q1 and Q4 because no one's there.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, it's disappointing that they couldn't work something out, but again, I mean, we see that the profit is not huge. You know, when you're talking Borg making $106 million, Resorts is the only other casino under 10 for the quarter, and they made 5.7, and that's a 26% increase for them. So, you know, things are looking decent, I think, for Resorts as far as just the trajectory and everything. You know, I think we talked about the same exact thing in 2015. Like, you're not getting excited about this, you know, infinite gain. Even though it's going from a loss to a win, it's just hard to get excited about it because it's an amount of money that can get wiped out by bad luck, basically. It seems like it's probably within sort of the standard deviations of what you might get in your gambling take. So,
right. I mean, also this being, you know, just to give some some background to this. Long before we had the podcast, and even before we had the Do for a Win address URL, me and Craig would track the revenues, the gaming revenues for the casinos, which we actually haven't done in a few months. But we had a spreadsheet, or we still have a spreadsheet with everything. And personally, I mean, as someone with an MBA in finance, I know that there's a lot of stuff that goes into profit that makes that a bit less of just an interesting number to just look at, because, you know, so many other things can affect it. So for me to really feel like super comfortable about this, I'd have to go into all the financial statements and kind of look at every casino and see what makes sense to me and what doesn't, and like how well these casinos are really doing. Because I don't know what these numbers mean. I mean, they might mean what they seem like they mean, or they might not. I'm not really sure without doing more work.
Yeah, so this is based on what, like earnings before interest, tax, debt, and depreciation. Is that?
Well, no, I wouldn't think so. I mean, I think it's probably profit, which is the bottom of the income sheet. EBITDA is much higher up.
Just looking to see if I can confirm. I don't see anything about that, but
I mean, it could be EBITDA or EBIT, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't see anything saying.
But I mean, even still, I mean, there's still some anomalies that if you actually look at someone's income sheet or whatever, could come up.
Yeah, and there's
you'd be like, oh, that's weird that they're putting all this money into that or whatever.
Yeah, and there's also sort of like wiggle room within the accounting. You know, I wouldn't be that surprised if Carl Icahn does not agree with this number. I mean, as far as saying like, actually, we're not profitable. Like you hear that semi-regularly.
Well, these are probably the numbers that they submitted to the state of New Jersey, right?
Right, but that doesn't.
Sure.
That's not necessarily like the whole truth, right? I mean, you hear that, not that, you know, sports teams are publicly traded or have to post their earnings or anything, but a lot of times you hear sort of sports teams finagle things in a way that they claim they're doing much, much worse than they actually are, especially if they have to do some sort of collective bargaining coming up, and they're like, even when all the data seems to point to like revenues being insanely high, they're like, actually, we're losing a ton of money. I mean, that's harder to do when you have to file a bunch of public reports, but, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if you asked Carl Icahn, like, explain to me why you're closing, if he painted a very, very different picture than this, like, $2 million, up $2 million instead of down $9.6 million in Q2 2015. But that's all pure speculation that I probably shouldn't be getting into on the podcast. Any other thoughts about general revenue stuff? I mean, most of it's kind of what we expect, right? Like Borg number 1, Harris number 2, Caesars number 3, like that's all totally to be expected. I don't think there's any real surprises here at all to speak of. I mean, Borg up 27% is surprising just in that you'd think at some point they'd sort of hit a plateau, right? Like at what point can you not make any more money? And they clearly have not hit that point. Maybe MGM will find a way to make that happen, but boy, they sure seem to make a lot of money, and I mean, they've had one of their best months ever just recently. I think in the month that Taj said they were going to close, Borg posted, I think it was over $80 million of gaming revenue, which was their best month of all time, I think. So, yeah, I mean, that place just prints money.
While you were talking, I actually looked at all of the income statements on the state of New Jersey's website, and the numbers you reported are not Q2 profits. They're actually the profits for the whole first 6 months of the year, which is actually a bit more positive, I guess, for all the casinos than if they were just Q2 profits. And also, it is sort of the gross profits, so that is essentially EBITDA.
Okay.
So, just to clarify that. Just to sort of go back to my old finance days too, because even though I have an MBA in finance, I still do IT stuff.
So moving on to a casino that is not in the revenue lists, because it is not open, and we don't know if it will ever open, is the Revel. So the sort of shocking news that came across Twitter this past week was that Revel had to go through, or Polo North, I guess, that is Glenn Straub's company, had to go through a process where they had to get a new site plan approved by the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority. That was scheduled for just, I think, a little over a week ago, and the CRDA basically punted on it. Like, they said, we're not so sure about this. I guess they had some concerns about the traffic plan and how it would change because they're putting in those ropes courses where the valet used to be. And so they did not approve it. They didn't, reject it, but they just basically said, no, come back to us later. And basically this is going to push everything back until, late September at the earliest. So just because of the timing of the meetings and everything. So after that meeting, Glenn Straub was asked, if he's still going to try to open, if he's still dedicated to opening, and his quote was, "To hell with that. I've got other things to do. I don't have time to be screwing with this stuff." Which sounds very much like he's giving up, right? But just a couple days later, so that's an Aaron O'Neill article on NJ.com that I'll link to. You can see all his quotes. He says other stuff also, but seems very pessimistic about everything. Just a couple days later, Nicholas Huba from the Press of Atlantic City posted an article saying that Glenn Straub now says he's going to open by the end of 2016. So there's been some talk about October 1st, NJBiz.com. Andrew George posted an article saying he was shooting for an October 1st soft opening. So it's very much mixed messages coming from Glenn Straub and Revel. Certainly they're not where they want to be right now with these lack of approvals everywhere, but the to hell with it certainly seems to be a sort of heat of the moment thing where he's not totally serious, which I kind of would have guessed. So I've been sort of optimistic about Revel this whole time and have been proven wrong every time something comes up. Where are you at? Are you still thinking this is going to happen? Are you becoming more and more pessimistic? Where are you at?
I'm still fairly pessimistic. I don't think it's going to open in October, but well, all right. Let me say I don't think it's the right thing to do if they open in October. Who knows what Glenn Straub's going to do? He seems like he's saying he wants to open it, and he might not necessarily care if it's the right or most profitable thing to do. So I'm not really sure, but I am thinking more like spring 2017.
Yeah, it's just really hard for me to justify this in my mind, especially if it's not going to be fully fleshed out. Why are you going to open and pay a bunch of staff and have all these expenses when you know you're not going to really get a ton of revenue because it's well after the peak season? I mean, it'd be one thing if he was saying it's going to be this totally different resort experience, which obviously he's claimed it's going to be in the long run. But right now it seems like, we haven't heard a lot about restaurants. Even the stuff that he says he's going to have is not fully completed, like the ropes courses and crazy stuff like indoor cycling tracks in the parking garage and others, water park and an obstacle course. It's one thing if you're going to open something that is, you can sort of present as this totally full experience that doesn't really matter if it's summer or not. Even that, I don't think it's the best idea. But if you're going to open something and say, oh yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff that's coming soon, which is basically what we saw with Showboat, right? They opened, they have a couple of restaurant sort of bar options open and just very little else, and rooms. Why open in October when you can just sit on it for another 4 months and not pay all these expenses, or 5 months or 6 months, and wait until March or April and open and be ready for the peak season. Like, that just doesn't make any sense at all to me.
Yeah, I agree, unless, I don't know. I mean, it seems like he really just wants to get it open for reasons unknown to me. I mean, it seems like profitability immediately, like, if he's telling the truth and that he really wants to open it, I mean, I don't think that's at the forefront of his mind.
Yeah, I mean, it almost feels to me like he just thinks, like, I said I was going to open it in 2016, so I'm going to open it in 2016, which is probably boiling it down into much more simple terms than it really is. But it just seems really weird. Like, I can't find any justification for it in my mind other than that. So I don't know. I don't know unless he's got some, like he mentioned, subcontracting out the staffing, unless he's got some contracts that start on a set date and he needs to start getting some revenue just to make that back. Like, I can't really see a whole lot of reason to do this. The other thing that came up about Revel is there's some talk of making part of it a timeshare. And so Fantasy Resorts, Fantasea, which owns a couple other properties in Atlantic City, says they're negotiating with Glenn Straub to take over some of the space in Revel. This is an Amy S. Rosenberg article from the Philly Inquirer, and basically it seems like Fantasy is very forward about this and saying, like, yeah, we're really, like, trying to make this happen, and Glenn Straub's kind of doing his typical thing, where he's saying, like, oh, yeah, we talked to everybody, so, like, don't count on anything happening. So Straub said that they've been talking, so he did admit that they have been talking, which is, something more than he has done in other occasions where people have been mentioned in connection with Revel. He said that they've been talking about 12 floors that are actually unfinished in the Revel Tower. I guess out of the 54 floors, 12 of them are not finished. So I guess the idea is that Fantasy would come in, finish building these things out, and then they would have them as timeshares, which that's something that I think was, I don't know if it's still really done in Vegas at all, because I think the timeshare market's kind of crapped out. I mean, I know there's definitely still timeshares in Vegas, but I think back before the crash, back before like 2007, 2008, there was much more talk about a lot of sort of mixed-use development where hotels would not just be hotels. They'd be a hotel and a timeshare. They'd be hotels and condos or that kind of thing. So I don't know if they're kind of going for the same thing here. I know MGM does in Vegas. They have some property where you can buy a timeshare and allegedly MGM will then manage it for you. So they're like, oh, it's almost no work for you at all. Like, you buy it, we like rent it out when you're not there, and all that. And apparently the deal is actually that MGM doesn't, like, that's their last priority, right? Like, they want to rent out all their other rooms that are actual hotel rooms before they deal with that.
Right. Yeah, they just talked about that on some other recent podcasts in the last month or so, I'd say. But, yeah, I'd say in general in Vegas, I mean, there's a lot more timeshares and a lot more sort of casino-owned condos or just condos around than there are in Atlantic City. So, yeah, it's a much more common thing in general in Vegas, I'd say. I mean, that was the whole, like, a lot of city center is, like, condos and timeshares and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea for Straub in that it sort of diversifies. It's probably not a bad idea in that it gets some people into Revel. It's, I mean, really, probably as far as the sort of niceness of the property, it's probably attractive to some people as a timeshare or as even as permanent residents, although there's been no mention that they're going to go to, like, condo. I mean, not that condos would be permanent residents. It would probably be all seasonal, but I think it does make some sense. It sort of diversifies the, like, room inventory a bit, which is probably good for everybody involved. But, I also don't think that any of this is set in stone. I wouldn't be surprised if this totally falls apart and this is the last we hear of it. So just something that has come up in the news about Revel. But unless you've got anything else to add about Revel, I think we've sort of come to the end of our news for for the 2 weeks, in short order. I think less than half an hour, we're kind of done.
Yeah, just about half hour exactly, which is cool. I mean, there's still plenty of stuff to talk about, though. Like, when are we going to Atlantic City again?
So I've been pushing the first weekend in November.
Yeah, the November...
Like 4th, 5th.
4th and 5th, yeah.
Any thoughts?
It's definitely possible. I think that is probably a pretty good weekend for me to do it, and I think it's probably also one of the first good weekends for me to do it.
Oh, good.
So, I mean, I am not 100%, but if people want to start writing down a date in pencil very lately, that's what I would do.
Permanent marker. So, it's done.
I wouldn't do that. I would do pencil. But I think that's a good weekend for me. And we should probably maybe check with some of our other friends, too, and see if they're going to be around. But I think that should work for me.
So I've been watching the total rewards rates like a hawk. Mm-hmm. And there was a little while where Friday was comped at Caesars and Saturday was like reasonably cheap. And now like Friday's $99 and Saturday's like 200 something. So that kind of sucks.
Yeah. Well, we can see what happens. Because right now, I think when I check, the weekend before that for me, both are comped.
Yes, that is true.
The last weekend of October, which is surprising because it's Halloween. But
yeah,
whatever.
That's very strange. But yeah, I got the same thing. I mean, not just me comped, but when I put in you as a companion. So the other thing, I mean, I'm getting, starting in October, and I'm assuming this will carry over to November, I'm getting resorts comps on Friday. And so I was sort of thinking, oh, resorts would be fine. Like, it'll probably be cheap on Saturday. And so I was kind of thinking about, like, oh, you know, resorts does have good gambling. They've got $10 blackjack where the dealer stands on soft 17, which is nice. And they've got Royal Derby, which I like, even though you hate it, and other stuff that I kind of, you know, I do like the casino there. But when I actually think about, like, where I want to stay, like, I definitely would rather, like, in my mind, I would much rather stay in Bally's or Caesars than resorts. So that's not a real good sign for resorts. And this is kind of the second time I've made that decision, because when I went in July, I think, with my wife, it was like, we could stay in resorts for free, or we could pay $150 and stay at Tropicana, where we will actually be able to do more stuff. So, I guess that's kind of the battle that resorts is facing, and and why they have to give really discounted rooms, because other people have so much more to offer. Other casinos have so much more to offer. But it is funny, because I've said so many times, like, that comp is such an allure, but at the end of the day, like, you know, maybe I'm maturing a little bit, because I would rather pay like $100 and stay at Caesars than stay at resorts for free. Which, you know, I like resorts fine, but the room just didn't really cut it for me.
Right. So, I mean, so you're also Sunday through Friday resorts, right?
Yeah.
Well, at least we haven't gotten November, right? But September, October.
Right. I think I might even in September only be Sunday through Thursday, but starting in October it goes to Friday.
Yeah, I know I'm Sunday through Friday at both resorts and Trop, I think through the end of October. So I'm kind of interested to see, just in general, if we are going to get Saturdays back starting in November. I doubt it, considering we haven't been in a couple months.
Right. Especially with Taj closing, like, that's less room inventory in the city in general. I mean, Showboat has opened, but that's not, I think a lot of people are very focused on the casino hotel properties. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's sort of a sense from resorts that they are maybe not so desperate to give away the rooms, because now there's a big property that's right next to them that's closing and was huge and had a ton of rooms. So, you know, maybe we're not going to see sort of the same ease of comps at resorts. And that's actually something to talk about, is that, you know, you may not see the same ease of comps in Atlantic City, or especially on the boardwalk in general, just because now there are a couple thousand fewer rooms that are there that were pretty easy easy comps to get. So something, for me, especially as a low roller who sometimes usually only gets like Sunday through Thursday or even Monday through Thursday, and if I'm sort of never getting any sort of Fridays or Saturdays at all, I'm going to be kind of disappointed. So I'm a little worried about that. I'll see how that goes. It doesn't really seem to have moved the needle on my total rewards, which I've been checking basically every day. Like I still get the same, like basically I get every weekday, Sunday through Thursday comped at one of the 3 total rewards casinos, and then very few Fridays and no Saturdays. As far as like as far as the calendar will let me see, until the peak season picks up again. So I don't know. Hopefully this doesn't sort of hurt us even more than it already. Well, not that it's really hurt us that much, right? Like Taj Mahal, we never went, but it's disappointing to see a casino closed.
Yeah, no, it always is, even though Taj was kind of like our long-running joke on the show. Yeah, so I guess something else to talk about quickly is on Monday, I actually went to the Horseshoe here in Baltimore. And just as a quick trip report, instead of the usual $25 Pai Gow poker and $100 tiles, they had $50 tiles instead. So I actually played some. And I ended up $200 after playing for about, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes. And I went and played craps for another 15 minutes. And actually won another $200 there in $25 craps, which is more expensive than I usually play. But, I was already up a bit and I had to leave soon. So I decided just to cash in and stayed for 2 or 3 rolls or 2 or 3 rollers and did all right. So, and then I gave $100 back at the video poker machine walking out, but all in all, I was up a couple $100 and honestly probably got a pretty good hourly rate while I was there. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very long time. So I know I told you earlier in the week to check and see if it looked like our rates were getting better because of that trip. And I think the answer is they didn't change much, probably because I just wasn't there very long.
Yeah, I didn't see much of a change. But some sweet profit, as we say.
Yeah, always nice. It was good. It was nice to actually have a winning session because it's so rare, or it hasn't happened for me for a while. As you know, my last AC trip was an unmitigated disaster. So
yeah, I feel like
it was nice to go and like actually be like, hey, I can actually sometimes win.
Yeah, I feel like not our last couple trips, but one before that, I think like last August, I really, every time I sat down, I was losing, and it was like, I feel like I just need, not even a winning trip, but like one winning session. Like I need to sit down somewhere and leave with more money than I sat down with just to know that it is possible. So especially like over the trips, I feel like the same thing. Like if you have a bunch of losing trips in a row, you sort of really need the combo breaker, if you will, like something to make you realize that it is possible to go and win. And just because it kind of sucks the life out of you, right? Like when every time you leave, knowing that you've lost, and it feels like, it is adding up, like, so that all adds up and kind of takes its toll on you and your excitement. And I feel like one of the things that a couple of the the Vegas podcasts, this is not a Vegas podcast, have mentioned is it seems like people have sort of, not with real data, but have sort of made this statement that they feel like they're losing more, like more often they go and they lose and they don't win anything, and that they're losing their money faster. And I don't know if that's just confirmation bias, like, oh, I only remember when I lose and I forget when I win, or if it's that they, the rules are actually changing, the slot machines are tightening up, or if it's that, as you go more often, you sort of naturally play for higher stakes, and then, you're more likely to lose more than you used to if you're playing for higher stakes, although you're also more likely to win more than you used to. But I don't know, and I sort of had a similar feeling. I was like, yeah, I do feel like I'm losing more lately when I go. So I went back and I looked at my list of trips, and I realized, like, no, that's not true at all. Like I actually like, yes, I've had a couple losing trips, or I had like 3 in a row, but then I had the big winning trip where I hit the royal flush, and like actually, in the last few years, I'm up because of the royal flush, but my sort of like wins and losses are pretty, like, it's pretty much what you'd expect, like a natural, like you win some, you lose some. None of the, other than the big jackpot hand pay, none of the wins were particularly huge, and none of the losses were all that huge. So it's funny because in my mind I think like, every time I go, I lose a few $100s, but that's like I have it written down that it's not true at all. So it is interesting that I do think some of that is just psychological, like you think you lose because you remember the losses, like you get more annoyed about that
Right.
than the wins.
Yeah, no, you definitely remember the losses more than the wins. But yeah, I feel like for me, like it's probably I'm higher variance than you, so I remember both big wins and big losses coming home from trips. Because I think I just do that more often, where you're probably up or down a couple $100 more likely.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. I mean, like the hand pay, like that's one of those rare sort of instances where you can bet a little bit of money and win a lot. So for the most part, my trips are, up and down, not very much, because I'm a low variance player. So yeah, like you said, I don't see big swings either way, and I'm fine with that. That probably fits very well with my personality, is that in that I don't necessarily need those big swings either way. So thoughts on Horseshoe? Are you?
I don't know how much I've talked about a Horseshoe, but it's all right. It's perfectly acceptable for a local casino. I mean, it's not the greatest place because like I know I've mentioned this before, but like all of their restaurants seem to have pretty short hours. So like I've been there on weekends before, and it's like you can either go to Guy Fieri's or one of the places in the cafeteria, which one of the places in the cafeteria is a different Guy Fieri's. And their steakhouse and Johnny Sanchez have been closed, which is annoying. So there's that. But also the limits are like a little bit high, especially on craps. It's not as bad for most of the other games. Also, Pai Gow Tiles also has high limits, but most people probably don't really care about that. I don't know. It's all right. I mean, it's a TR property, so that's nice in that I can, in my mind at least, affect my Atlantic City comps by going there, unlike Maryland Live, which I actually think is a bit of a nicer casino, but isn't affiliated with anything in Atlantic City.
But it doesn't. You don't at all feel like, oh, well, I can just go to Horseshoe and Maryland Live. I don't need to go to Atlantic City. Like, you still feel the urge.
And we talked about this sort of, I don't know, 20 episodes ago. Like for me, going to places like Atlantic City and Vegas, I mean, they're certainly, gambling is a thing that happens there, and it's the thing that I spend the majority of my time with, but it's more about like, whatever. It's a trip to do with your friends, and it's fun, and, especially now that we're a bit older, it's nice catching up with everyone because we don't necessarily see people as much as we used to back in college and when we were in our early 20s. So it's more about that. It's not like I couldn't replace that with a local casino, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a casino that's that close, where it's like half an hour or less away. The closest thing to me is Bethlehem Sands, which is still an hour and a half. I mean, it's a straight shot, like it's literally all on one highway, and then it takes me 5 minutes to get to I-78, and then Sands is like 5 minutes off of I-78, but it is like 90 minutes. But I've never been. Like, I've never even really had that much interest. Like, I've never thought, like, oh, I've got 5 hours to kill. Let me go to the Sands. Part of that is that I never have 5 hours to kill because I have a toddler. But,
right.
Even if it came up, I really don't think that it would really that interest me that much. Although now that it's sort of in my head and, like, germinating, I may decide, like, oh, I should really go and check it out.
You should.
I've certainly never had any real interest in going and seeing like Empire City in Yonkers or Resorts World in Queens, but
hey, you wrote about Yonkers like 3 or 4 years ago on the site because it's pull tabs, right? It's not real slot machines.
Yeah, Yonkers and Resorts World, I think, are both the like bingo style slots. So
yeah, I need to go to Delta Bingo and play the bingo style slots
in Laurel, Maryland. Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean,
which, by the way, in case anyone's curious, Steve Wynn got his start in bingo parlors in Prince George's County, Maryland, where I live now.
So yeah, I mean, why isn't Delta Bingo like the Wynn, Maryland now? Why hasn't that happened?
Yeah, unfortunately, he didn't own one in Laurel, but I just think that's super interesting. It makes me laugh when I see that.
Yeah, it's one of those. I always forget about it, and then I see it mentioned places, and I'm like, oh yeah, bingo parlors in Maryland. That's really funny.
Yeah, that's where you got to start.
I guess bingo parlors make decent cash, considering what Steve Wynn has done since then.
Let me tell you, the bingo parlor in Laurel does a business.
It's so weird because I grew up there and I never heard anyone talk about it other than just to like laugh at the fact that there was a bingo parlor right there.
I mean, it has a crazy amount of cars in the parking lot, and I mean, my wife's gone a couple times. I've never gone, but she says it is quite busy in there.
Is it heaven's waiting room, as they say? Is everybody 75 or older?
Yes, there's a lot of old people.
So that's the Maryland podcast that you've just listened to.
Yes, thank you for listening to our Casino Biz and Maryland podcast.
Any thoughts? I mean, one thing I just wanted to mention real quick about the Taj, that I can't actually even remember where I heard it come up. If it was our friend Andy who mentioned it, I'm sure he'll verbally slap me in the face for not remembering. But just something that I saw come up about the Taj, I honestly can't remember, and it's killing me. Whether it was on Twitter, whether I was talking to our friend Andy, or what it was this idea that, the Taj is huge, which we talked about in the last podcast. Like, it's insanely large, and it feels very, like, everything sort of feels stapled together, like the Spice Road restaurants, the casino area sort of feels separate from everything. You've got that Chairman Tower that doesn't even look like it's part of the Taj Mahal. So the idea that I heard that I'm totally just going to present to you with no knowledge of where I got it was splitting it up. So could you, instead of selling it off as a whole entity, could Carl Icahn say, okay, you know what, I'm going to sell off the Chairman Tower as its own sort of entity, or sort of a built-in entity, and then I'm going to lease out the Spice Road, and I'm going to lease out whatever other shopping area, and the meeting rooms are going to sort of serve as a conference center, and just sort of separate everything out and sort of build partitions in a way that it's basically this sort of separate thing. Maybe there's a casino, maybe there's not, but just something to split it up and break it into pieces, and maybe where the parts are worth more to Icahn, at least, as far as like selling it, than the whole. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. Like, I don't know what the logistics of that would be. I don't know what the value for any of those things individually would be, since, everything in AC is so focused on like a total casino property. But that is something that I thought was kind of interesting as sort of an idea to go a totally different direction. Like, could they sell small parts and find more investors than the very sort of limited investor pool who would be interested in saying, like, okay, I'm going to take over this big, ugly white thing and let's see what we can do with it. Sort of trying to say, okay, well, you're only going to have to deal with this part. Like, what are you going to do with this one part of it? Or what are you going to do with this one tower? So I thought that was interesting. That's sort of all speculation, obviously, but just something to think about as a possibility.
My initial instinct is no.
Well, that's no fun.
I think in a world or in a market that was much more interesting than Atlantic City's, I think it would make more sense. Like, let's say it was on the Strip or something. Maybe you could split it up into parts, or section it off somehow, because just the real estate is hot enough that that's a thing you can do. But in Atlantic City, there's no appetite for building these sort of individual standalone properties that serve these like niches or just serve individual business functions. Like, I think for it to make sense, it's got to be a whole casino resort.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just there's no demand for that in Atlantic City. There's there's just, I mean, there's so much open property anyway that you can buy on the cheap. Like, why would you? Like, I think for it to make financial sense, like, I think having the entirety of the Taj makes it more attractive than if it was broken into parts. And it's just a function of the market in Atlantic City.
And just the glut of what's available, mostly.
Right.
Yeah, that's
I mean, to attract people there, you need to really offer, like, the whole package of, you know, hotel rooms and casino and conferences to get, you know, businesses in, and, you know, food and everything else that goes along with running a casino resort.
Yeah, well, hopefully if somebody buys it, they actually put some more effort into all those things that go along with running a casino resort, like food and other things, and maybe make it feel a little less disjointed. You know, speaking of disjointed, I feel like we've bounced all over the place here for the last 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Kind of
Perfect.
Jumped all over the place, but
that's what we do.
Yeah, you know, there's been no rhyme or reason for or segue between any topic here, but
it's what the people like.
Is it?
I don't know.
Maybe we'll hear different.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I mean, if they're still listening to us, I guess they have some appetite for it.
Yeah. So, any last thoughts before we get into closing? Any, you know, November 4th? Are you ready to commit within the last 10 minutes, Kyle?
Do you think that the whole sort of dog and pony show over the last couple of years for the Taj has been some elaborate scheme by Carl Icahn to try to break the union in all of the casinos in Atlantic City?
Like for Trop and Taj?
Mm-hmm.
That would be much more of a big sort of conspiracy. I think that's a longer con than I'm going to give him credit for.
So just to follow up to stuff we were talking about last episode, when I was, you know, we had a talk about the unions, and I said that, you know, yeah, of course the union has quote unquote failed the people that work at the Taj by not agreeing to whatever Carl Icahn's demands are, because they will now get $0 instead of whatever Icahn was offering. And, you know, Carl Icahn even came out and said, like, you need to let the members of the Taj, like, vote on whether they want to accept this or not, which is not in the best interest of the union, and it's not in the best interest of the membership of the union. But there was someone posted on the Facebook group an interesting documentary about the rise and fall of Atlantic City that was shown on public television in New Jersey. And in it, they spoke to the union head, whose name I can't remember now, but I can look it up down below, probably, because we've talked a lot about him. McDevitt?
Bob McDevitt.
That sound right? Right. So, and he was talking about how, because of the nature of the deals with the casinos, basically, if the union agrees to something in one casino, like whatever the terms are, every other casino in Atlantic City can choose to basically use that contract instead of the contract they signed with the union. So obviously that makes it even more clear that the union could absolutely never accept the Taj's deal that they were offering, because then the other 7 casinos in Atlantic City would just say, all right, that's your deal with us too, which is clearly not in their best interest because it doesn't have healthcare and some other stuff. So I just think it is interesting, and I kind of wonder if this was like the long game all along, because, you know, Carl Icahn said he's gonna put $100 million into this if this happens or that happens or whatever, and he kind of kept getting his way until basically the union agreed to sign this deal that he offered them. But that's not, like, I don't think anything's changed, really. I mean, he was having and hawing about North Jersey casinos earlier in the year as a possible reason not to put the money into the Taj that he said he would, but, like, I don't think any of, like, the real underlying things have changed about anything, except that the union wouldn't sign his deal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I'm not saying that is what happened or that's not what happened, but I just think it's an interesting thing to think about.
So I did actually sort of have a very brief thought about the idea that maybe his offer for Tropicana that was accepted, he kind of felt like, well, it doesn't really matter that much because my end goal is to get a cheaper offer or like a worse offer for the union at the Taj, and then we'll get that most favored casino clause and just use that to basically make that the deal that everybody gets. But I didn't really think that much about it, or kind of figured that's probably way more sinister than, Carl Icahn, fine, upstanding guy. He wouldn't do something like that. But I don't know. I mean, it's not like completely out of the realm of possibility, right? I sort of feel like it's more likely that he just feels like they're totally separate entities, and he's going to operate them in the best interests of each other, regardless of both of them together, and he's not really thinking about clauses and all that stuff, but that's probably not giving him enough credit for his business acumen.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly a smart guy. I don't think anyone would argue otherwise about that. So I don't know. I'm not saying that it is what he did, but I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll learn more or hear more whether the Taj closes or after the Taj closes, and there'll be some more clarity there. Maybe you'll be proven right, and you'll be able to say, like, I told you that was what he was doing.
I don't know. I don't know how I could be proven right, but
he would come right out and say it, Kyle.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, look, Carl Icahn is, like I said, a very smart man, and he has certainly made a name for himself by treating his investors very well and sort of treating the people in the way of his investors not quite as well. So I don't think it would be out of character for him to sort of play this long game, but I don't know.
So should we go ahead and close this thing down?
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Just wanted to throw my crackpot theory out there.
No, it's interesting stuff. So just want to thank everybody who has been posting in the Facebook group. You can find that at facebook.com/groups/doforawin. Our website is doforawin.com, and you can go there to find the podcast episodes. You can find all the links to the articles that we mentioned in today's episode. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, other places where podcasts are listed. The Twitter is at doforawin, and you can send any questions you might have to doforawin@gmail.com. So thanks for listening. We'll talk to you within the next couple of weeks. I don't think we've quite established when that's going to be, but
yeah, we're still working on some stuff. I mean, just so you all know, I'm out of town on work from the 3rd to the 10th, basically. So we're going to try to record something special next week, but because we're really lazy, we have actually done none of the work for it, which I'm doing right now. So we'll see.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk to you in a week. Maybe it'll be a little over 2 weeks, but either way, it won't be too long.
Yep.
Yeah, so good luck if you are headed out to Atlantic City or any other casinos. We'd love to hear how that goes for you, either via email or on the Facebook group, and we'll talk to you in a little bit.
Yep, have a nice couple of weeks, everyone.
So I was talking to Andy today,
Mm-hmm.
and all of our conversations lately have been about the same thing.
Las Vegas?
Which is Las Vegas, and when are we going to go again? I was saying how, I was making some joke about staying at the El Cortez because it was like $30.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, man, I'd stay in Henderson and walk to the Strip if that's what it took to get us to Vegas.
I think that's the right mindset to be in.
That is the right mindset.